Hello, everybody, and welcome to another brand new Culips episode. You are tuned in to Simplified Speech, which is the Culips series for intermediate English learners who want to hit that advanced level. We're here to help you achieve that goal. And each Simplified Speech episode features a clear, natural, and easy to understand English conversation between native speakers. And joining me today as my co-host is Indiana. Hey there, Indiana. How's it going? Do you want to tell us what our topic for today is?
Sure. So today we are talking about musical education. So we're going to talk about the types of lessons at school that we took growing up if we had exposure to learning music as kids. We're also going to talk about, the difference in experiences with learning music and lessons at school, or also self-study, going out to the library and picking up a book and reading about music by yourself. We're also going to talk about if we think parents should kind of force their kids to learn an instrument. How important is it for a kid to learn an instrument? And our relationship today with musical instruments and musical education. Are we still pursuing the guitar or the drums, for example? So we have a lot of different topics about musical education that we're going to hit on today.
Yeah, and I should say that this episode was requested to us recently by two different Culips members, by Priscilla and also by Aditka. So guys, thank you so much for that awesome episode suggestion. I love it when our members or any listener really offers a suggestion for a topic for an upcoming Culips episode. If you guys have a suggestion that you would like us to cover in an upcoming Culips episode, then let me know in the comments or on our Discord community, and we will try our best to make it a reality and make it happen. Also, there is a helpful study guide available for this episode to all Culips members. In the study guide, you will find detailed vocabulary explanations and examples of the important vocabulary that you'll hear me and Indiana use in our conversation. There's also a comprehension quiz. There are prompts that you can use for speaking practice and for writing practice. There's an interactive transcript and much, much more. Speaking of speaking practice, by the way, we'll also be talking about this episode and this topic in an upcoming speaking class. We have 3 speaking classes each and every week for our Culips members. So you get it all, guys. You get the awesome listening lessons, you get the helpful study guides, you get the speaking classes as a Culips member. So if you would like to join Culips as a member, just visit our website, culips.com, and you can sign up today for an affordable price. And of course, thanks to all the members out there for your support. We really appreciate it. Thank you, guys. All right, Indiana. So I think it's time for us to get started with our conversation for today. Enjoy, everybody. Here it is. Maybe I will start by asking you, did you learn any musical instruments when you were a kid? What was your musical education like growing up?
You would think, because I love music so much, that I would be proficient in several instruments and really good at playing music or singing. Absolutely not. I'm really bad. But yeah, when I was growing up, I did take the violin, in elementary school. Maybe it was 3rd grade, 2nd grade. And I was in chorus. I think choir or chorus is a common class that elementary, middle school students take. So I participated in that. And then, later in life, I tried to learn the bass and piano a little bit, but just a little. I just dabbled in musical education when I was a kid. Although it's a very, very popular choice for kids to take a musical class when they're in middle school and elementary school. I assume, Andrew, that you took music lessons when you were growing up, since you can play. I believe, is it guitar that you play?
Yeah, I like that word that you used there a second ago, dabble. Because dabble means like try a bunch of different things. It can actually have sort of 2 meanings, I feel, Indiana, and maybe you could see if you agree with me or not with these definitions, but to dabble can mean to try something not seriously or to not get too serious about something, right? Like maybe you try piano and you're like, it's not for me. I'll try violin. It's not for me. You sort of dabble, right? But it can also mean that you can do many things, but none of them really, really well. And that's my story as a musician. I can play a lot of different instruments to various degrees, but I'm not like an expert at any of them. But I can sort of play several different instruments, like so, not bad, not terrible, but not amazing by any means.
Yeah.
And one more vocabulary note here, because I just wanted to circle back. I love that word that you used often there to talk about this topic was take. You said, I took the violin. And some people might think that you stole a violin. But what does it mean if we take the violin or take piano?
Yeah, so this verb is coming from the idea of to take a class, to take a lesson. So when you just use the instrument as the name, you say, I took the violin. That sounds like I took a class where I learned how to play the violin.
Yeah, you took a lesson, right? Took a lesson. And then instead of just saying lesson, we can drop that out and just say, yeah, took violin, took piano. So, yeah, to get back to my musical history, I started off by playing piano. I took piano when I was like maybe, I want to say that I started later than most kids. Like some of my friends started taking piano lessons when they were probably like 6, 7, and I was maybe like 10 when I started. My parents bought an electric piano and we got it delivered to our home. It was a Yamaha. I still remember it. It was awesome. It had like all these built in beats and you could change the voices on the piano. It wasn't like a synthesizer with hundreds and hundreds of different presets in it, but it had like an organ, it had vibraphone, and it had these different beats. And yeah, I remember going to the music store with my parents to buy that piano, and we got it delivered to our home, and it was just so cool, and I loved playing around with it. And you could set it up so that you could hit one of the bass notes, the lower notes on the piano keyboard, and automatically it would make this track for you. So it would play the drum beat and add the bass note, and you could sort of just make a little melody with the bass and develop this track. And I really loved that. And then I took piano lessons probably, yeah, around 9 or 10 years old, but it was a totally unique style of piano lessons, I think, compared to what most children take, because my friends who studied piano would always go one on one with an instructor and it would be very formal. In Canada, I don't know, do you have this in the States or not? I'm not sure, but we have the Royal Conservatory of Music. Do you have that in the States, or is that a Canadian thing? I'm curious.
Doesn't ring a bell. I don't know that we do. Maybe there's an equivalent, but I'm not familiar with what that is.
Okay, so it's like this place where you can go and learn music in Canada, the Royal Conservatory of Music. It's like very classical, very formal music education. And there's a series of textbooks. I believe they're called Suzuki, and it's like Suzuki piano books. And yeah, it's like very classical piano orientated. So my friends who took piano lessons all went to the Conservatory of Music. They studied with the Suzuki curriculum and they learned how to play piano classically. But my piano lessons were totally different. It was a group lesson. I went to this music store, and in the back they had a room with like 10 pianos, and there were all these kids in there, and we learned to play piano together. And it was like a big focus, I think, on being creative and not so much on like music theory. And so even to this day, I kind of regret learning that way. In a way, it was good for my creativity, but in a way, it was bad for my knowledge of music, because I don't really know too much about music theory these days. I don't really know too much about like how to read music. I'm pretty rusty with all of that kind of stuff. So yeah, in a way, I regret that, but it was still an awesome experience. I remember even my dad would join me, and he was learning to play piano a little bit at the same time as I was, just like sitting in on the classes. So that was fun. And yeah, from there, I got into guitar. I started to play guitar when I was probably like 13 or so. I had a paper route, and I saved some of the money from delivering papers, and saved up and bought this like crappy electric guitar. And I would go to the library and get some books from the library about how to play guitar. And I kind of taught myself. I never took guitar lessons. I was self-taught and kind of figured it out to an extent. And so yeah, guitar was cool. And my one true passion that I always wanted to do was play the drums. And I used to bother my parents all the time, like, can you please buy me a drum set? Can I take drum lessons? Please, please, please. And I probably begged them for like years and years and years. And then finally they were like, okay. So my family friend was a drummer, and he lent me his drum kit. It was this Ludwig. Ludwig is the brand of drums kit. And it was a huge drum kit. It had like maybe 5 tom toms. A regular drum kit will have 3 tom toms. This one had 5, so it was like you could really do the like it was cool. And so I had it set up in my basement, and I probably drove my family insane, and my neighbors insane, just like smashing away on these drums every day. My parents used to be like, you can play when we go shopping. So they'd go out and go do the grocery shopping, and that's when I'd play when everybody was out of the home. But then I took drum lessons, and I feel like I got pretty good at drums. I got really into it, and I felt like, and still feel like, that's probably the instrument that I can play the best. I mean, I don't really play any music these days, but when I do get the opportunity to sit behind a drum kit, I feel like it's like, oh yeah, I'm pretty good at this. Whereas with the other instruments, I think I would be pretty rusty these days if I picked up a guitar or sat behind the piano.
What impresses me with your story is, like, what a self-starter you were with the guitar, because you didn't really have any lessons, but you still, like, were passionate enough or had the drive, even as a kid, to, like, keep learning and teach yourself. Like, I did not. I would get really it's inspired to try to learn, an instrument. Like, also, I was interested in the drums, guitar, all sorts of things throughout my life, but when I was a kid, I would have this spark of passion, and then, like, I didn't have lessons, and you might think, "Well, you should just teach yourself then," but it would fizzle out. I would, like, lose the inspiration because I wasn't immediately good at it, and, like, I never stuck with the instruments that I wanted to play. So I'm impressed that you totally did that for guitar. That's awesome.
Yeah, I don't know. I've been thinking about this recently, and I feel like some people have music inside them that they just need to release. It's like you have this like sense of music inside you, and it needs to come out, and you need to express it. And I think this is on a spectrum. Sometimes you see, like, I think jazz is an amazing way to see this, but you can see it in other genres too. And it's just like when you see a super talented, passionate musician, it's like the music just like flows out of them, and they can't help but create music. And I feel like I didn't have a huge reservoir of music within me, but I did have some amount of music within me, and it just needed to come out. I needed some way to express that creative music that I had inside of me. And so I think that helped me. I think even though I sucked at playing guitar for a long time, and still do, that is like, I needed to express myself. I needed to get that music out of me. It needed to be channeled through some instrument. And yeah, so guitar was the best way for that. And I think that's why I stuck with it. But yeah, it's kind of funny. I was joking with some of my younger friends. Like one of my friends, who's in their 20s, was saying that they wanted to learn guitar recently. And I was like, oh, it's so easy for you guys. You can just go on YouTube and watch tutorial videos. And like, I had to go to the library and get books with like pictures of how you should hold your hand and move your hand. It's got to be so easy to learn an instrument these days compared to the past. But I'm kind of sounding like a grandpa here talking about paper route and going to the library. Oh my gosh.
Right.
Indiana, what do you think of forcing kids to learn an instrument? I think a lot of parents would be pretty stoked if their children picked up an instrument and were passionate about it. But so often kids give up easily. They don't have that stick to itiveness in them, and they want to quit. Uh, I don't know. It sounded like your parents were okay if you just sort of wanted to try this and try that, and they were happy to let you experiment in that way. What would you do if it were your kids who felt that way?
Yeah, I've thought about this a lot actually. Not like with the intent of like, oh, this is what I'm gonna do when I have kids, but just in general, right? Like, I think that parents put a lot of pressure on their kids and can, you know, force them to do too many extracurricular activities for their development and for like, looking ahead at college applications, right? Like sort of there's too much like we need to make you look good for your future. And I don't really love that. But on the other hand, like, I do feel like as a kid, you should definitely have, like, an activity that you're focusing on, and an instrument is such an awesome choice, and even if you don't love it, I feel like it's worth it to have the experience where, if you say, "I wanna learn this instrument," and so your parents get you the instrument and they set you up for lessons or you're learning through school, then if your passion, like I said, mine did, fizzles out, I still think you should sort of commit and, like, have to learn for a while at least. I mean, if it's a year and you're like, "I hate this, it's like torture," sure, I don't think you should force your kids to continue with it, but, like, some level of discomfort and just pushing through the basics and the difficult part of learning the instrument. I think that's really good for, like, your development and, like yeah, like, the chance to actually start to get good in an instrument. I feel like that's, like, really a sort of a gift you could give your kid, like, if you can afford to pay for lessons and give them an instrument and, like, push them towards that. I think that's really wonderful. Um, what is your take on this, Andrew?
Yeah, I don't think I would force somebody to do something if they really, really hated it, but I would also not want them to quit right away. So I think, yeah, maybe it's good to do something uncomfortable for at least like 6 months. Try it for 6 months, and if you still hate it, okay, you can quit. But um, often it's like learning a language too, right? Like when we're kids, we can learn so easily, so quickly, and it gets fun once we start getting a little bit better, right? Once you get past those beginner stages, and I mean, if you're learning English, then you can have a conversation, even if it's not perfect. That's fun. That's exciting. It's better than just like memorizing vocabulary. And when you're learning an instrument, when you can actually play a song and maybe you could do a little concert for your friends or family, and they're like, wow, that's amazing. Like that's when it gets fun, right? So sometimes it takes some time to get to that stage. And then once you're at that stage, then that good feedback that you get can be self reinforcing and it can encourage you and push you to do more and more and more. So, yeah, sometimes we need to stick with it for at least 6 months, but I wouldn't like, I had some friends that took piano lessons for years and years and years and hated every second of it. And now looking back, they're like, I'm actually glad that my parents did that to me. But at the time, they would always complain about it. And I think I would just be like, okay, if you really, really hate it, you can go find something else that you're passionate about. In a way, it could be detrimental too, right? Like you might be taking away this golden opportunity for your child to explore some other passion and to get really good at some other passion that they have in life. So
Exactly.
you never know. Indiana, what about the music education that you got at school in the States? I'm kind of curious about what it was like growing up as an American and learning about music in like band class at school. What's that all about?
So, since I never pursued an instrument for very long, I didn't have any experiences in high school when it would be a little more advanced, like when you're playing in band, you're kind of doing performances, or maybe you're participating in the music for the school play, right? I was not at those advanced levels, but I took violin lessons in elementary school, and I was in chorus in middle school, so doing singing. I think those were great experiences, and, like, kinda I remember being some days like, "I totally don't wanna do this," but then, like, I was introduced to a lot of cool music, in the chorus like, the choir lessons, like, international music. I think we did, like, a Japanese folk song once that was pretty cool. Like, it was really a nice opportunity to learn about more music than was, like, playing on the radio. Um and I did learn some of, like, how to read music in elementary school when I took those violin lessons. So I would say, like, I think the quality of the education was pretty good. But, unfortunately, I do think that music education in public schools often gets cut quite quickly when there's budget cuts, there's not enough money, that's one of the first things to go, the arts programs, right? So I'm not sure what it would be like today or if that my experience was the same for a lot of schools. What about in Canada? Like, it sounds like from your stories, a lot of those lessons you took were private lessons or your friends were going to the conservatory, but not taking lessons at their own school necessarily. What was it like for you growing up?
Yeah, I think I had a pretty good musical education at school too. But from what I can remember, we had a different instrument that we would learn each year. So I think we started with the recorder, maybe like grade one, kindergarten.
Oh,
Uh,
yes, the
the recorder,
recorder.
yeah.
You've jogged a memory.
Classic. Probably a lot of our listeners out there, you guys can relate. I think the recorder is like the classic elementary school instrument. And if that's your case as well, let us know in the comments. But yeah, learning the recorder. And then I remember learning vibraphone. We had these really awesome vibraphones in elementary school. Like, I think it's called a vibraphone or a xylophone, maybe. The one that's made out of wood and you hit it. It's got like a wooden keyboard that you hit with mallets and it makes this really mellow, deep, resonant tone. It was really awesome. I loved learning that instrument. And then the next year, I think we learned ukulele. I remember learning ukulele at school and a whole host of other instruments. And then once I got into middle school, I took band class and I played trumpet and my brother was on trombone. So that was kind of funny for a little while. We had a brass section in our house. I don't think either of us got very good at trumpet or trombone, but yeah, and then in high school, I was a part again. I took band class, is what we call it, but it's really like the school orchestra. So we had a big school orchestra with a string section, woodwind section, brass section, and percussion section. And during this time was when I was really into the drums, so I wanted to play drums for the band, and there were like 6 or 7 percussionists in the orchestra, and unfortunately I wasn't chosen as the drummer, so I had to do all of the like small little percussion stuff, like the triangle and the cymbals and the big bass drum, which was kind of fun. Like, I remember just hanging out with my friends in the back in the percussion area, and the rest of the band would be practicing some number, and I would have like at the end of the song I would have to smash the cymbals once. So I'd just hang out and talk with my friends, and then at the very end I'd get ready, boom, smash the cymbals, and then that would be it. So it was a pretty easy class in that regard. But yeah, unfortunately there was a better drummer at the school, so she got to play instead of me. But yeah, so to sum up, I think music education in Canada at the time that I was a student was really, really good, and yeah, very high quality. But as you said, it is one of the first things to get cut, and it really depends on the school district that you go to, the teachers that you have. And I imagine that it would really vary a lot from school to school to school. But at least for me, thankfully, I got a pretty good music education at school, I think.
Like I said earlier, I think it is really, like, formative and important, yeah, to get exposed to that stuff, at least a little bit, but ideally long term, yeah.
So, Indiana, I think we're almost at the end of our conversation here. I'll wrap things up with one final question. We've been talking a lot about our childhood, but now we're adults. And especially me, I'm an old guy. I don't play musical instruments as much as I used to. I used to, play my guitar all the time, every day. I'd come home from work and it would just be sitting on my bed and I'd pick it up and play it for a couple of hours, but not so much anymore now that I'm in my 40s. But I'm wondering, do you have any like ambition to maybe learn an instrument again as an adult? Would you consider doing this at all? What do you think?
I would, yeah. That's one of my, general goals for myself. Like, I have a keyboard, and I was into learning piano a couple years ago, and I learned a couple songs. And it just, like, I have issues with sticking to it. Like, I get sort of this brief inspiration for a couple months. This is, like, what I'm gonna do after work. This is what I'm really into. And then maybe, like, work just gets hard or I lose the momentum, and, I also have a bass guitar I'd like to, continue learning, which that was, like, 5 years ago. That was my project. So, in general, I really would like to, yeah, because I think there's something that feels so satisfying in your brain, like, when you learn a song or you finally nail that, like, that riff or whatever it is, that melody. It's like it feels really good. And it's, like, just wonderful, I think, for your own, like, self-satisfaction and growth. Do you feel like, Andrew, you wish you would play guitar more, now that you're in your ripe old age of 40s, as you've said?
That's a great question, Indiana, in my ripe old age of 41 here. I joke with my friends that I'm a retired musician. I don't know. I would love it. I would love to have the time to play musical instruments more often, but there are other things in my life right now that take priority. Culips takes a huge priority in my life, and I really want to dedicate myself to doing a good job here at Culips. Also, I'm learning Korean. I'm really into running, and I'm trying to get an amazing marathon time. I want to get good at running and be a fast runner. So when I take all of those three things into consideration, and then of course, like family time as well, at the end of the day, I'm not really left with too much time for music. And that little remaining part of time that I have left over, I usually try to spend that time listening to music instead of creating it myself. So, yeah, I don't know. Maybe I'll come out of retirement one day and pick up the guitar again. And I did, to be honest with you, not too long ago, I did pick up a drum practice pad. And a practice pad is just a little rubber pad that you can hit with your drumsticks for practicing. We call them rudiments, which are like the building blocks of building, I don't know, just like the essentials. Maybe I could put it that way, the essentials of drumming. So I do have this little practice pad and I have some drumsticks. And from time to time, I'll put that on my desk and do a little rat tat tat and practice some of my rudiments. And that's pretty fun. But yeah, I don't see myself playing music in a big way going forward. I think that period of my life is pretty much finished for now.
Yeah, that makes sense. You have to pick, you can only have so many hobbies. Yeah, that's just life.
Mhm.
Running and language learning are big
I
ones.
gotta win the lotto. If I win the lotto and I can retire and just live a life of luxury, then definitely I would love to pick up the
Totally.
instruments again. Anyways, we can dream. We can always dream. But Indiana, I think this will bring us to the end of this episode. So thank you so much for the conversation. I really enjoyed it. And listeners, thank you for listening. Congratulations on making it all the way to the end of this episode. You did an amazing job and completed an English study session here with me in Indiana today. So, job well done. Keep up the good work. This is what you need to do to build your English fluency. You need to spend a lot of time listening to the language. So, yeah, keep up the good work. And Indiana, we would love to hear our listeners' perspectives as well. And guys, the best place to share your thoughts or your opinions or your takes about this episode is on our Discord community. It's completely free for everybody to join, and the link to join the Discord is in the description for this episode. Also, don't forget that there is a helpful study guide and an interactive transcript and a comprehension quiz and more available for all Culips members. If you'd like to sign up and become a Culips member and support the work that we do here at Culips, then you can do that for an affordable price just by visiting our website, which is culips.com. And again, a big thank you to all the members out there for your support. Guys, we couldn't do Culips without you. So thank you so much. Okay, Indiana, that brings us to the end. Take care, and I'll talk to you next time. Bye.
Have a good one.